Tarot, and in today's video we are going to be looking at March predictions. What's going to happen in March? As per usual, you know that I like to set a pretty wide intention net, so to speak. And the main focus of these readings are always, what do you need to know? Because time and time again, I keep discovering that that's the most important thing. Yes, it is wonderful to hear about positive, exciting things that are going to happen, and they do show up in the card readings, and I'm excited to talk about that. But what's going to get you to be your happiness, to overcome, to understand? And so sometimes it's about letting you know about this wonderful thing that's going to come up in your life. And sometimes it's about understanding how to refocus our energy, or just something that you can in general put your intention towards throughout the month, with maybe like a project, or understanding how something could potentially go and how to change that. And these are the things that we are focusing on across every avenue of your life, so you can have the best possible March possible. But in addition to that, if you would like to, and support me, I have a Patreon. It is a place that is a wonderful, happy community. I love it so much. I almost have 200 videos over there, and we talk about, just like over here, a pretty wide net of things. And 3 of those new videos that I just posted over there, to give you sort of an example of what we talk about over there, is I made a video talking about why do some things work for some people and not others. And we're talking about anything from manifesting towards just general goals. And I actually go into breaking it down on a spiritual level from my own personal experiences working with individuals, knowledge from Akashic records, trial and error, talking to spirit guides, the whole shebang. I talk in depth about that. So that's like a really fun, better understanding of that, and basically using it to your advantage. Second video is about applying, reinterpreting, and retranslating affirmations into a more beneficial way. We totally reevaluate what that means, and I give some tips and tricks in order to use it in a way that's actually beneficial, especially if you have not connected to affirmations in the past. Or, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. Sometimes it just doesn't work to say one thing over and over again that you just don't feel connected to. Looking at the situation and understanding by when we reevaluate how we approach something, it can make all the difference. And then the third video is talking about how to travel anywhere using spirit realm travel, anywhere in the world. And I think that is just a particularly fun subject, and this is one reason why I'm so passionate and going into my next thing, which is I have 3 courses, a meditation course, a brand new one I just made, the thinking person's way of practicing and going deeper into your consciousness and the layers of the universe. It's not like anything you have come across when it comes to meditation, and is an important foundation to pretty much everything else, life, working with spiritual stuff, whatever. I have a tarot training course. As you can see, tarot has been a great value in my life. It simplifies the process, but you don't lose any of the details, and you get right into reading tarot. But it shows you the art form and all the possibilities. And then 3, this then leads me to my point of the traveling in the spirit realm, the intuition training course. In the intuition training course, we talk about how to go to the spirit realm, talk to your spirit guides, and how the physical world, and this is the important part, the physical world and the non-physical world overlap way more than we know, and how to understand that and use that to your benefit. And in addition to that, fun fact, spirit realm traveling has an enormous amount of possibilities. Just like tarot does with asking any question you possibly would like, you can travel to different parts of the world. You can go to different dimensions. You can go to the Akashic records and learn all this different knowledge. You can do pretty much anything. So, just letting you know those things and are available in resources in the description below. But let's go back to our original intention, which is the March predictions. We've got 4 groups in front of us. Oh, also before I go into this, I hopefully you're still here and you hear this, but some of you have left the nicest comments about saying how you really look forward to these videos and how you go, hi, and you like when I say that, and oh, See, terribly happy. I am a person on this other side of the screen, and that means something to me. And it just makes me tear up a little bit with happiness and love. I really put my all into these videos. I really care about being as accurate as possible, and I just really appreciate the appreciation and good vibes are sending my way. I hope you genuinely feel the good vibes and effort I send your way with every video. I love you guys to pieces. I just wanted to say that. I've been always reading and noticing that, and it just gets to me in a really great way. But anyways, go back to our video. We've got 4 groups in front of us. Group number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to give you a moment to think about March. Say, hey March, I want to know what's in store. Hold that in your heart for a second, and then pick the group that you resonate with most. I'm going to give you a moment to do so. Now that you've picked the group that you're vibing with, you're connected with, you can go down to the description to skip to your designated group. Let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1, let's look at your March predictions by looking at the cards. We have 9 of Wands in reverse, the Chariot card upright, the Hermit card in reverse, the 4 of Cups missing a cup upright, the Knight of Pentacles upright, the King of Swords in reverse, the 8 of Cups in reverse, and the Fool card in reverse. Oh. Okay, give me just a second to look at the details of everything and consult my spirit guides for one moment. So this is really interesting because, so the way I typically like to do my readings is I keep it pretty open. So whatever is the most important thing for you to know, you get to know about. And it really varies with information that comes through. Because again, we don't always know what's going to be the most important for you to know. But when there are just so many cards really focusing on one topic or concept, well, let's just say that's very important. I did verify with my spirit guide if you would realize this is important, if you would realize it later. And I was basically told, it's not really important you fully realize, but it is very important in the long term. So it's like one of those things that, you deal with, you interact with, but you're not aware of the positive domino effect going forward. So definitely something to take note of, because the way that I'm going to go into depth here when we just go over this subject and situation is really interesting, because you're going to just think, oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'll do that thing, or I'll interact with that person. Okay. And even in the moment, it won't feel like a super big deal. So looking back at this, you're like, I wonder why they just kept talking about it so much. It's because it's the way it overlaps and how it affects things going forward. It's important that you're conscious and make the decision essentially going forward. So first, and you'll see it takes up all of these cards and into these cards. And I would even say this card is influenced by this. And then this is our just separate regular information and prediction stuff. So first we start with the Chariot card. And my spirit guide talked about this concept that you are going to be in March moving forward away from something. It feels like an idea or a person. You're moving on. That's what they said. Moving forward and moving on from them. And the Chariot card is an incredibly positive card. So it's this feeling of like you're letting it go. You're like, you know what? I'm ready to not deal with this anymore. This is very much the energy when you cut someone out of your life that is not helpful and beneficial. And remember, that really varies. That doesn't always have to be purely an ex that wasn't benefiting you anymore. This can be a friendship or even family or whatever that may be. But this can also be concepts too. And it's this feeling of not only you letting it go, but really consciously saying like, I would like to move into the next placement in my life, which only gets confirmed even more. And I always like to call these my confirmation cards in the Fool card over here in reverse. Confirmation cards for me, if you're familiar with my tarot training course, is we're always looking cards where it's like repeating information and it adds to saying like, yep, this is what it means. This is, by the way, I am so sorry. I don't know if you can hear it, but there are planes going overhead and they're so loud today. I don't know why. I'm going to just keep moving on because whenever I'm concerned about there being sounds, you guys are always like, I don't hear it. So I'm just going to keep going. Anyways, so this is where it gets really interesting. The Chariot card has two paths. And the reason why I find this interesting is there's almost a similar notion to them. It doesn't feel like there's that much of a risk choosing between the two. And you'll notice that they sound very similar, but the cards are kind of creating a pull towards you moving a certain direction. But the reason why I also find it interesting is we could have gotten, and this is something to consider if you're a tarot reader for yourself, you could have gotten the Two of Swords right here. It could be between making a decision. Usually Two of Swords is like a fork in the road. The Chariot is here instead and deciding between the two options. And it's this guarantee that the individual in question, aka you watching this reading, is going to move forward. And it doesn't really matter either way which one they choose. And that their decision moving forward isn't decided upon what they choose to do. So what are these two options? So over here in the Nine of Wands in reverse, this talks about the concept of you're going to move forward, but in order to move forward and just in general going forward, you're going to have this mindset you're really going to consciously let go of what previously caused you emotional issues. A good example of this is, let's say you had like a friendship group that did you wrong, and cathartically you bring it up every now and then in your future friendships, and you bring up like, you know, I really don't like that they did that to me, whatever. And because obviously it's fresh and it's still on your mind, you're bringing it up and you're sort of working out by expressing it. This is that decision that you're going to just stop talking about it. You're going to truly let it go because it's not happening anymore. And you're going to not define yourself to the point where, and again, I want to be clear here, we're not talking about life with everything. It's really positive to work through your feelings and talk through things. And we're not saying that. We're just saying that, and this is what's showing up in the reading, keep in mind. We're saying that sometimes you get to a point where when you are existing as the new person you are outside of the circumstance that happened to you, you're kind of only filling in your space and environment with things that are no longer affecting you, but by bringing them up so much, they then start to almost affect you in a new way. And to be in this new space, this new environment, who you are, you've redefined yourself because you're no longer in that setting and those people. It's like you've cut them out of your even vocabulary. So again, when things are coming into your space and you're working on new ideas and stuff like that, they are just totally as they are. They're not like, well, I like this because my ex-friends didn't let me do this. It's just totally as it is, new. And over time, you don't even think about them, and you find that you've gotten to truly enjoy the full benefit of no longer having them in your life. That would be a good comparison of what's going on here in the Nine of Wands. But then over here, again, you're noticing it's very similar of a concept, but a little bit different is the focus in the Hermit card in reverse. My spirit guide said the main focus going forward as you move forward is focusing on the social interactions you will now have. Again, anybody new friendships, maybe you enjoy talking to acquaintances, somebody who works at the coffee shop, maybe this is new romantic interest, whatever that may be, but there's just a clear focus on moving from a more isolated perspective to a more social one actively. The thing that I think is really interesting here is there's a couple things going on. One, the Hermit by itself, because talking about being more social is interesting because you could have gotten the Three of Cups. The Three of Cups is a very social card. It talks about celebrating, hanging out, just having good times, not a lot of weight and seriousness between the interactions, just really where core memory building is the best way I like to think of the Three of Cups. But the Hermit card is a thinker. He is somebody who has spent some time alone, and by being alone, he has really figured out himself, past situations and how they interacted, what it all meant, and he takes that knowledge and he goes out into the world and he either uses it or he shares it with others. And I think that's something of note to understand the state of mind you're coming from and the value you have to offer going forward and how that will affect your interactions and stuff like that. But I also think what's really interesting here is that this symbol, and I'm going to bring up that concept I just spoke about when we get over here in one moment, but what I think is fascinating is you could choose different ways of viewing a situation in any capacity. This is something I actually just recently talked about on my Patreon, about the idea of affirmations and how that when we look at them in a totally different way, it changes how we actually benefit from them. And it's this idea of like, if one concept or affirmation or way of approaching this sense of thinking or what you would like to create opportunity-wise with yourself in the universe isn't working for you, that's okay. There is another way of interacting with it. Just for an example to make this even clearer, in the Patreon video, which I highly recommend, I go in much deeper explanation. I talk about how sometimes it's not helpful to say something really positive and say that you already are it. You just can't connect to it because that's not the state of mind you're in. So instead of saying, you have this, you are this, you would say, I'm open to connecting to that idea. I'm open to that as a possibility. And there were some other things I branched off of in that subject, but you see what I'm saying? How we just slightly change what can we accept? What's the branching point or the bridge to the idea to at least get us there. We might need to change it around, but it's still the same destination. We still get there in the end. So ultimately, it's like, are you in this moving forward, letting this go, going to really focus on the idea of the opposite of like, hey, I'm going to catch myself if I'm talking about this. I'm going to try to actively be conscious about not talking about it anymore, moving on, choosing that it is the past, so it's not going to affect me more and focus on now. Or, and this is very much still, in my opinion, mirroring this idea, because ultimately if you're focused on all these new friendships and ideas, you're not focused on the past. So in a way, you're still exercising this. But in this one, you're focused on what you would like to have. You know what I mean? Over here, you're focusing on the idea of what you don't want to have. And then over here, you're focusing on what you do want to have. Again, you choose what you want to do, what makes you feel most comfortable, but I think it's really interesting where you're heading headspace-wise, depending on what you choose. Are you seeing it what you don't want, or are you seeing what you do want? Now, going forward, though, I'm going to just, before I go into these topics, I want to finish this point. Like I said, there's a lot of cards based around it. I was pretty surprised. So underneath this moving forward in this gusto, I also want to point out, this is another thing that the Chariot card, my spirit guide did say, or you know what? We'll come back to the idea. We'll come back to this in a second. Finishing the main concept and idea. Underneath it, we have a King of Swords. Again, this is what I love about tarot cards working out the way they do. So I just laid these cards out as I just wanted them to fill the space. This is how I put it. But there's no coincidences, and as you can see, you're going to see how this is an individual that's standing in your way. They're literally directly under the Chariot, your momentum moving forward. And then over here, this talks about the confirmation and idea of you wanting to get away from this person. And again, it's the same concept with the Hermit. You're moving away from this concept. You're moving away from this idea. This is somebody who wants to move away from this person because they know something and they're like, nope, I don't want it. This is somebody who knows something and wants to move in a new direction. Just some food for thought when you're reading tarot cards for yourself. Always pay attention to like aligning map type of concepts, because it's always adding to the additional evidence that you know what you're doing. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you can be like, that confirms double what I'm saying and doing. But going forward, in the King of Swords in reverse, specifically my spirit guide said that this person would be very easy to recognize. They will try to sort of stand in your way of momentum. The way I kind of had it seen, and let me just double check one thing with my spirit guide. Okay, my spirit guide said that one exactly. Okay, so the way I see them standing in your way is it's almost like they keep getting your attention by sharing an opinion or disagreeing with you or being like, but you said this and that. And it's very much like their argumentative points or way of catching your attention through verbally trying to get your attention is just too appetizing for you not to be like, well, guess what? And then you to have your comeback or prove while you're right. But all of it's sort of alluring and pulling you in and preventing you from enjoying your momentum forward that you have the energy for. Remember, the Chariot card is somebody who just like knows what to do next. They just feel like they're ready to make the decisions that were previously hard. They see themselves easily realizing that they could just make one decision and move into a totally different career in a second, and they connect to that and they're enjoying it and they're making those decisions. This person is a distraction is the best way I can describe it. And again, my spirit guide said that you'd be easily able to identify them because they're very smart. They're really good at making like points and conversational ideas that you just want to respond to. It definitely feels like a frustration, especially. Let me just double check my spirit guide. My spirit guide was like exactly frustrating, especially when you have a King of Swords in reverse. This is somebody who's not kind with their words. They're usually very jealous. They're usually possessive. There's like a frustration behind, you compared to them, what you have, and so on and so forth. So they are verbally trying to get your attention, and it will feel like you want to respond because they're saying stuff that you easily have an answer to, or you just don't feel like it's right that they speak that way, and you just want to ignore it. You want to ignore it because it is not something that's going to lead into a direction you're going to be very happy with. You're going to end up wasting your time responding to this person that you didn't need to respond to in the first place, and you'll miss out on the opportunity. It's not forever, it's not a loss, but you could just easily enjoy this energy and state of mind you're in March by moving forward. We're going to talk a little more about that concept of like state of mind in a second, but there's just no need to interact with this person. But it is an important thing to pay attention to when we have the Eight of Cups specifically in reverse repeating again. My spirit guide said that this just straight up confirms again the concept of you really wanting to get away from this person. This is not your cup of tea. You want to get away from them. You don't want to hear what they have to say. They're really annoying. They're frustrating. It is the confirmation card that you will keep in mind. So yay, don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. But it is important to point it out because again, it's the type of thing where before you know it, you're kind of caught up in defending yourself or arguing back with them because again, it's just too appetizing not to respond to them. And if you do, just keep in mind, let's say you respond to a couple rebuttals, catch yourself and go, I could end the conversation and stop talking and not worry if they're like, oh, you stopped talking to me at any given point in time. I could just stop and focus on what I actually want to do. This is what we talked about over here where I said, you can ultimately choose which way you want to focus on when it comes to moving forward attitude-wise, but I do feel you're being pulled more into this direction when we have this card interacting. This talks about on this side, underneath the Hermit card, the confirming of you wanting to get away from this person. The Hermit card is somebody who has interacted, understood how people can be, takes that knowledge and exercises it by thrusting themselves forward when they do go out in the world. They're like ready to, they have that knowledge. And this is, you would be like, yep, I know this type of person, not going to interact with them. I'm good. I've been there before. I understand how the world works, so to speak. I'm going to wield my knowledge to move me to the next place in life I'd rather be. You're just a bump in the road. Goodbye. Like I said, nothing really serious, nothing to be scared about, but when you start to hear this sort of negative interaction, do not respond. Move on. Don't interact with them. It's just a distraction. They're just trying to pull you in. I know you want to say something. It feels so good to say, well, actually, don't. Leave it alone. Focus on what we talked about over here. And then this is when we get beautifully the Fool card in reverse, and I want to talk about the Stars in the Chariot card. So in the Fool card in reverse, this is not actually being read in reverse. Again, this is the beauty of working with your spirit guides, because by a lot of the interactions in the cards, it almost implies we're moving towards the Fool card, and we're moving towards it in reverse, and it could be a negative sign. And normally the negative sign would talk about this idea of you're about to take a risk and be knowing of it, don't do it, you're going to regret it kind of thing, but not in this particular case. This is representing the idea, because it's in reverse, it's leaving this scenario as a whole and moving you in this great direction. In this direction in the Fool card, which is being read upright, again, we're only having it in reverse in order for it to lead outside of the circumstance and situation, out of this going on. You're fully moving on and you're entering your Fool stage, which is really awesome. This is somebody who's obviously got a totally new journey and stage in their life, which is really positive. We love, I mean, please sound off in the comments below. I love when things feel fresh and new, and it's as if like you have all these ideas at your fingertips and anything's possible, and things don't feel tired and redone and things like that. This is a wonderful energy to be in. But this is also somebody that my spirit guide said that you should definitely take risks. You should definitely try new things in March. At the end of March or during March? During March, they said. Okay, good. So as you're like, okay, you know what? I'm finally ready to let go of that circumstance. I'm not going to be distracted. I'm going to focus on making some new friends, having some new fun idea people I like interact with in that kind of way. Don't worry, like the Fool card is somebody who is taking risks in a way where he has got this really positive mindset. He's like, you know what? If I believe everything's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. And ultimately, it's the confirmation that everything is going to be okay. This is somebody who is having a good time following his flow by making decisions as the next one pops up. So you're not going to think too far in the future, which is ironic when we get over here, but you'll see what I mean in a second. You're going to just, each time you see an opportunity pop up, have fun, take it, enjoy the new core memory building you have. The Fool is very like lightweight, like very free-spirited. He doesn't feel like anything's bogging him down about the past. He's not dealing with trust issues. He's feeling free. This is very comparable, again, when we talk about like not healthy relationships between friendships, romantic partners, whoever, where when you, I'm focusing the camera, I didn't realize that. When you leave it, you're like, I can just breathe. It's like that type of energy. So again, this is the confirmation. We've got a lot of confirmation talking about you continuously moving forward, talking about obstacles you want to be aware of in order to keep moving forward, headspaces to practice in order to create more haves rather than only focuses on have-nots. Not that this is bad. This is still a helpful thing. This is something to consider. And maybe you can simultaneously exercise both, but definitely focus more on this than just purely on pushing something out of your life. You know what I mean? But going off of this idea of new things, you're really just like really taking it one step at a time, loving it, not thinking too deeply about the next step, finding and following into your flow by exercising this type of mentality. We have the stars going on in the background of the chariot. My spirit guide specifically pointed out that these are representations for like these wonderful epiphanies you have. The epiphanies really range, to be honest with you. They can range from like really helpful ideas that maybe you make money off of, to maybe you realize why you always gravitate towards a certain type of personality, to better understanding yourself and therefore feeling like you can truly like let go even more of the past, to just feeling excited by an idea in general that you want to maybe either work with one day or you like the idea of. It really ranges. But my spirit guide said that you do want to be very conscious of this constant flow of energies and epiphanies you're having, and you want to really interact with them and go deeper into them. So they didn't say you have to do this, but I would recommend however you flow best. So let's say you're somebody who can just in the moment have an idea and immediately explore it. There you go for it. But if you're someone who's like busy, or you're not really aware or sure how to pause and be more conscious of your ideas, every single time you have an idea, get a small notebook and wear it around your neck like a necklace, or keep it in your purse or your backpack or your pocket or whatever. When you do that, every single small, minute idea, you're going to write it down. And then you're going to come back to it and explore it later and really think, what else could I get out of this? And just think about it. Just go into it. But it was very clearly said to me, explore these ideas. Don't just let them be fleeting thoughts. And also don't stress if they don't become anything. just give them more attention than like, that's interesting. Go a little deeper, get excited about it. Now that idea of excitement goes perfectly into what we have going on over here. So the Four of Cups and the idea of the excitement is a branching point that's beautiful. Because if you noticed before, I made the joke that there's a fourth cup missing in the Four of Cups. And I love what my spirit guide said, because that was actually of value and importance. So traditionally, the Four of Cups talks about this idea of apathy, boredom, dispassionate, that type of thing. But in this particular instance, there is no fourth cup. There is no need, as this is how my spirit guide put it, this being took away the cups. And I think this is, and please let me know in the comments below, I think it's a nautilus, right? That's what the being's called. They're in the ocean. They're really cool little beings. Their shell has that like sacred geometry shape. Very cool. Anyways, so this being took away the cup. They're taking away the option for you. I don't want to say taking away the option. Maybe that's like not the way I want to put it. Normally, if we're in a Four of Cups mentality, you're asking, am I bored? Am I having fun? Am I bored? Am I having fun? Is this getting me excited? I don't know what to do. That type of thing. This being is taking away even the question itself, and instead asking you, and this is how my spirit guide put it, is during March, there we go, I couldn't find the wording. During March, you're going to want to focus on everything being of value to you. How is everything of value to you? And I was like, is this a mindset you're naturally going to be in, like the Chariot card? And I was told, no, you're going to want to, it's not that you're not going to be into it, but you're going to want to go out of your way to make it happen. It's going to be a helpful trait to have. So anytime you're interacting with things, and that especially includes if you're feeling a little bored in the moment, you're not going to go, I'm bored. You're going to pause and go, what value is this to me? So maybe it's forcing you to slow down and take a moment to breathe, and you're not even aware that it's giving you a moment to just rest your brain. Maybe you're being forced to slow down because the last thing you moved away from that you were just like, I don't want to do that. Oh my God. That was the scariest, most horrifying sound. Anyways, going back to what we were saying, you're just going to constantly dig deeper and be like, oh, that last thing that I got disinterested in, why did I become disinterested in? What can I learn from this or think about this? Finding passion sometimes in things that you wouldn't anticipate, but the main focus isn't that you find something to be excited about, but you see how everything is of value to you. And again, it's a different perspective than gratefulness. Gratefulness is sort of just like acceptance and appreciation. This is going deeper into the contemplation and understanding, because everything is teaching you something, giving you an idea, giving you... That sound is so terrifying. Oh my gosh. Let's keep going forward. Sorry. So you get the concept behind this. This is a mentality you're going to want to be conscious of. Regularly ask yourself this question when you're interacting with anything. And especially if you, and again, it's not focused purely on moments of boredom, but if you do have moments of boredom, that would be a good moment to be like, what value is this giving me? And you're getting in this really great headspace. Again, when we talk about where you can put your consciousness, you can look at what you don't want, or you can focus on what you do want. And in this case, if everything is benefiting you, if everything, and even the slow, quiet moments, again, it doesn't imply you're going to have lots of them. It's just saying if they are there, or other time periods, not even the main focus. If everything, every single moment is giving you something of value, then your life constantly is valuable. And that is only amplifying an idea beyond gratefulness. Not that I'm not implying that gratefulness isn't a great way to manifest, but think of this as like the evolved idea. Again, back to that concept of affirmations. What it goes beyond this idea? What creates more? Being just appreciative, or seeing what, in addition of enjoying what's already there, what else is it giving you? You're saying to the universe, I'm getting even more from it. I'm always benefiting from it. It's always adding to a better circumstance for me. And so this is not only interesting and really just makes life more fulfilling and interesting through this contemplative method, but you're building something subtly that's going to add up. You're practicing something that's manifesting and creating affirmations of positivity and opportunities in your life without even realizing it, which helps us review the entire way we exist and work with the universe. You can see I'm very enthusiastic about this. This is, by the way, if you're interested, this is the whole point of like my meditation course, is going into like, what else? What does it go deeper into? What does that build off of? And how valuable it is to contemplate and go deeper into thinking in that focused sort of stillness. Yeah. And also another thing in meditation course, if your brain wanders, that's awesome. Work with it. So last but not least is the Knight of Pentacles. This one was pretty interesting because the way it was expressed to me, again, very similar to a lot of ideas we talked about here, is it could be similar to another concept, but it's still being expressed in a different way for a reason. So over here, we have this adorable bee, a beautiful little bee. Please share your bee stories. And over here, we have a pentacle in the center of this honeycomb they're starting to build. They're starting to build their home. So my spirit guide said in March, wait, are they going to know it or do they want to make it happen? They're going to make it happen. Okay, I was just checking with my spirit guide. Okay, there is a way you're going to take your money and you're going to want to build a home around it. Now, let me be clear about this. I was like, do you mean like save it? And I was told no. And I was like, do you mean like invest it? And I was told kinda like, yeah, but it's not being seen in that way. If we view an investment, and investments come in many different shapes and forms, but a lot of the time it's like you put something in now, it's almost like it doesn't exist in your world because now you've put it somewhere that you're not going to benefit from at this moment. And then in time, you get to come back to it, it grows, you're like, I'm so glad I did this at this time, it benefited me later in the long run. It's got that long run type of vibe behind it, but the investment is something that you're benefiting from now, and think of it as more, again, investment would be a word to describe in the future. This is more in the moment building. Building is the better word, aka building the home around. So think of the pentacle as the initial money you spend on something, right? But think of each honeycomb as whatever you spent your money on, you get it back, you create something, you put it out there to create more honeycombs, which that gives you more money that goes back to the center point that you spend more money on and spend on more additional things and then bring it back. This would be very comparable energy to something like, so when people start a small business, so let's say you start a small business and you spend money on products to create whatever you're making, your product, right? You would get that money then back through the products the supplies. You would then create the products, you'd put the products out there that would then give you more money to buy even more materials for maybe new products, not just of the same line, but maybe even new ideas, extensions off of the main idea, and so on and so forth. That would be a good comparable type of energy concept that we're trying to express here. But keep in mind, this is not limited to that. You can create this idea through anything, but it is the idea of how do you build your money by viewing it in this kind of way of building the concept, building something that you get back. So you definitely want to, in your epiphanies and ideas, be aware of something that pops out to you like this and go out of your way to make it happen. Because again, these are more things that you need to make happen and you want to focus on rather than sort of like a bit of a destiny bound thing, you could say. This over here is more like natural stepping into, you just naturally feel it, you are able to get into that headspace, you're exercising these mentalities, and we're kind of honing it and being aware of some things in order to enjoy the best benefits of all of this energy and not get distracted across the bump in the road, you could say. So overall, really cool, really fantastic month for you. I'm very excited. It's just such a exciting, freeing, ideal related. You're definitely interacting with things in a new conceptual way, which gives you more epiphanies, and you're just in this really wonderful, lighthearted space that feels extremely freeing and deeper in consciousness, which who doesn't love that? So I love this for you. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. I love all your comments. I think it's very fun and interesting. And please also give this video a like, a subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my videos. I am wishing you the best. It means the world to me. I look forward to seeing the next one, and let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's find out what's going to happen in March by looking at the cards. We have, I love a Five of Pentacles in reverse moment. We also have, this is an interesting situation. Seven of Wands upright, Ace of Pentacles upright. We have the Lover's card. I love that these are seahorses. Comments in the below. Who loves seahorses? I do. Seven of Pentacles upright. Queen of Cups upright. I love this Queen of Cups. The Moon card in reverse. And Eight of Wands in reverse. Interesting. Okay, give me just a moment to look at everything and go in those details and consult my spirit guides. Just give me one moment to do that. All right. Okay. This is exactly why I love tarot. So, it's a great practice that helps forewarn people of things. And the reason why I'm so enthusiastic about it is because we can actually change things so that they don't work out a certain way, or you're better prepared, or better understanding ideas, which we're actually going to come back to over here, which is very important. But I love that this is popping up as well, because we're going to be getting into a subject that's going to seem a little bit initially conceptual is the best way I can explain it. It will make more sense when we get there at that part of the reading. But the point is, I love that there is something that puts it in front of you in a way where it might not be at the forefront of your thought process and brain. Basically, in so many words, what I'm trying to say is tarot puts in front of you what you might not realize, and that's a good thing. And basically, it makes it easier to then deal with it, you could say. So let's first start up here. You're going to see why I was like, when I was reading deeper into this. So over here in the Seven of Swords upright, interestingly enough, my spirit guides said that this is specifically talking about the idea of you learning about a secret or a few secrets. A combination of a few secrets. Okay, cool. So you're going to be finding out about that. And the reason why I thought this was fascinating was normally if you're familiar with reading tarot, in reverse is more of the traditional way that would be letting you know that you'd be finding out the secrets. When the card is upright, it talks about the idea of just someone keeping secrets away from you. And my spirit guide said the reason why it's being read upright is it's specifically talking about the way that you find out is that the person essentially is slipping up. As you can see, this individual is carrying away these swords and they're dropping a couple along the way. That gives me a feeling and a vibe, and let me just verify this with my spirit guide. My spirit guide very enthusiastically was like, yes, you're exactly right. Which is, it gives me this vibe and subtext that they're sort of trying to juggle and manage all of these. As in, why is that such a focus for them? Why is it something they can't just easily keep out of the way? Is it something they're constantly managing, so to speak, like an ongoing few secrets, whoever this individual is? Is this individual close to them? My spirit guide said very close to you, but not exclusively romantic, as in like it could be your partner, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the case. It's just someone very close in your vicinity to be the case. But the point is, they have been trying to keep an eye on it all at once. It's getting to be too much because, again, we talked about it's a combination of a couple secrets, and they have some slip-ups. You notice those, you're able to catch and find out about it. But here's the part where I was like, oh, apparently, this is the thing that's really interesting. From you figuring out these secrets, you get a financial opportunity. Job opportunity or financial opportunity? My spirit guide said both. Okay. I did try to ask them if this meant like a new job, a promotion, like what does that mean exactly? And my spirit guide basically just said it, like, because this is a general reading, it varies too much in possibility. So keep a pretty open mind that it could be various things. But what I thought was really interesting about it when I was getting the information visually was it's kind of like, it's not always the case where you will directly hear about them. Maybe they're trying to, part of the secret is they're trying to literally find a new job. You're like, oh, I like that idea of the new job. And then you go audition for it. It's not really like that. It's like, let's say you hear about them being at a place you didn't know they were going to be at. And when you go to look into the place to understand why they were there, you maybe get interested in, going for an interview. Or it inspires you to make an investment or whatever that may be, that type of concept. It's like an idea you wouldn't anticipate leads to something financially beneficial for you, which I love that for you. I especially love that for you when we have our also additional confirmation card. And I love me a confirmation card because while it might seem like redundant information that we just went over, it's extra putting in there like, yep, going to happen. Don't worry, rest your ease, but it gives me subtext as where you were previously mentally and emotionally, which is when we have a Five of Pentacles situation. This is why I got so enthusiastic. Traditionally, when it's upright, it talks about this idea of being in a lacking mindset. Why not me? Woe is me. I always get, the short end of the stick, that type of mantra idea and feeling and connection. And from feeling it and emotionally connecting to it, seeing the results of that. And it's not a fun state to be in because it's more than just struggling in that position. Sorry about that interruption. Going back to what we were talking about, in the Five of Pentacles in reverse, it talks about the opposite. You're coming out of that headspace. You are no longer feeling it and connecting to it. This definitely talks about the concept of manifesting, where there's a part of you financially struggling being in that headspace and perpetuating that more. So it not only talks about getting like in a better state financially, but it talks about your headspace, which feels a lot better. But it also talks about because you're in a better headspace, it's a lot easier for you to fathom and imagine your worth, being able to draw it closer to you, feeling like more like, yeah, but of course I would make more. But of course there's always enough to go around. But of course there's always going to be an opportunity around the corner, and just attracting and receiving that more and more. So I love this for you coming out of that headspace. I love the double confirmation. I just think this is really an interesting way to better understand a circumstance or person and then benefit from it, then rather just purely benefiting from it from just knowledge. It's like you got knowledge and then some, which I love that for you. Now going forward though, we have this interaction in the Seven of Pentacles upright and the Queen of Cups upright. And this is going to be an important thing you're going to want to focus on to then benefit from by the end of the month. So it's your focus for the month, and then at the end of the month, you get to reap the rewards, which I love for you. Now, my spirit guide was talking about how in the Seven of Pentacles, what fills this individual, represented here by the raven or crow. Actually, I know this is random. Are raven and crows different? I'm just thinking about that. That's like a side note. They are sort of fulfilled. What fuels them is over here in the Queen of Cups. What's going on in the Queen of Cups? Now, when we think of somebody filling their cup, think of it as yourself recharging. Sometimes people energetically, take away from us. That includes emotionally as well. And fun fact, emotions are a byproduct of energy. So if you're feeling depleted emotionally, it's usually energy too. And when we get to recharge, so to speak, by doing things we love, spending time with ourselves, spending less time judging ourselves, and instead putting into ourselves what we deserve, which is love and attention and connection, and realizing that we are good enough, and rewarding ourselves constantly and giving ourselves like, yeah, good job type of thing. But whatever it may be, and going deeper into understanding who we are, healing, the whole caboodle, in that kind of way, our cup gets filled, right? But if you notice, this goes beyond a cup. An entire ecosystem has birthed from this. And that's what's important that's going on here. This goes beyond you just feeling a little bit more recharged because you figured out something emotionally about yourself. This is you constantly throughout the month regularly giving yourself whatever you need, constantly checking in with yourself and saying, my emotional state is the most important thing in my life. And not only are you checking in with yourself when you don't feel great, but you're regularly just putting good things in your cup, so to speak, when nothing is happening. So you're in a totally neutral state or happy state, and you add to that, and you give yourself a reward. You say positive things to yourself like, you know what, I think I am pretty great. I'm happy that I love myself. I am so open to the idea of loving myself. I like that I'm stepping more into my inner power. Look at how awesome I'm doing. Look at all that I've done. Look at all that I could potentially do. That's a great state of mind to be in a constant state of, that excitement of when you start something new and there's all these possibilities. Imagine being in that constant state. But as you're adding that positivity into your cup, as well as like the healing and addressing things and stuff like that, your cup goes beyond just feeling full. It cultivates beyond it. And a great way I like to think about this is, it's funny, in life we talk about, I wish I was just happy, especially if you at any time in your life have been like struggling with different perspectives and managing yourself, especially emotionally. And little do we know, there is actually a point where not only do you feel happiness, but there's actually a point past happiness. It is surreal, wild, and it goes beyond just feeling good. Think of it as that. That's what's happening in the month of March for you. You feel good, and you get to explore potentially maybe something you didn't know could go beyond just simply feeling like, yeah, I feel better, I feel happy. Going beyond that and thriving in it. And that's when we get our beautiful Seven of Pentacles. What's happening in the Seven of Pentacles is traditionally this card talks about this idea of this person gardening, they're preparing, usually it looks like pentacles, but it's meant to represent like the fruits of their labor, that type of thing. Once you have gotten into this headspace, by the end of the month, you will be ready to harvest it. Now, let me just verify one thing with my spirit guide. Oh, it's a lot of things. Interesting. So I asked my spirit guide if this harvesting meant you will benefit financially. And my spirit guide said it's a lot of things. So this would be harvesting financial rewards. This would be harvesting opportunities, connections. Maybe you start to have some skill sets that come together in your improvement. Maybe it's epiphanies that change your life. It's a bunch of things. But you have built that up. You have cultivated it through this. And by the end of the month, you're benefiting from it, and you're getting to then utilize what you have grown and created, which I love. Plus, I really enjoy this reading for you because we talk about where we want to go, but we're not always sure how to get there. I love how simple of an idea this is. And sometimes by just conceptually understanding more than someone saying like, yeah, put love towards yourself, like love yourself. You're like, that's great. What does that mean? And I don't know if I'm really feeling it, but it's seeing and imagining yourself as a cup that's getting filled every time you do something nice to yourself, no matter the state of mind you're in, and understanding that it can go before that you're basically building the environment that will grow islands and foliage and wildlife, and it can go beyond. Being able to see that like in your heart, that really takes it to the next level. So I love this for you. Think of the cultivating or harvesting as building a beautiful little home there, going beyond it, getting to live there all the time. Then this leads us to, these are separate, but this then leads us to the next part, which is the Lover's card. Now, this one was an interesting one. So my spirit guide said that you will have a romantic encounter. They said it will go beyond one time, we'll just say coming together. It goes beyond that. However, the length and seriousness of it really depends on, and this is the kicker of what I'm about to say, my spirit guide was like, if they can stand them. And I was like, what? My spirit guide basically said that there are some things about them that, let me just double check with my spirit guide. Would you say annoying? My spirit guide said I would definitely say annoying. That you find kind of annoying. And so as you go from initially just having, your first encounter and then maybe a couple more and some dates and getting to know each other, you start to notice some things. And for some of you, you're like, I know this could go on longer if I wanted to make it happen. I'm just going to make the choice that I'll wait for the next person kind of thing. And for some people, you decide to stick it out. However, hold on, let me just double check anything. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to just, listen, free will is absolute. I want to be clear. You do whatever you want to do. But I do want to point something out for the ones that do decide to stick it out. I'm not really getting from my spirit guide you're continuing to stay with them because it's just such a deep, amazing connection, soulmate situation going on. It's kind of like, how you're bored and you're like, I guess I'll stay with them longer. Or you like the idea of having somebody in your life type of thing. Keep that in mind. Again, to each their own, but just keep that in mind if you do decide to keep the connection going. Otherwise, enjoy it while you have it. It's like a nice little experience and you can have fun, but don't be surprised if you start to notice things that kind of annoy you and you're like, I don't really like that. You just don't vibe with that. Make the choice to do with what you will. And definitely check in with yourself if you do decide to stay with them for longer and say, do I really like them? Am I vibing with this? And if you do, that's great, but just take a second and ask yourself that. Moving forward from that, we have something a little more serious, but it is important to talk about. So over here in the Moon card in reverse, it specifically talks about this idea of a disconnection with your intuition. That's important to remember because we could have gotten the High Priestess card. The Moon card, getting it in reverse rather than the hybrid in reverse, is really important because the High Priestess card in reverse really, it specifically talks about being disconnected from your intuition. This is a little bit more nuanced and adding a little more. And the reason why I point this out, and we're going to come back to this in a second after I go over the Eight of Wands in reverse, you'll find, this is something I talk about in my tarot course, there are a couple cards in a couple different subjects that have similar meanings. An example would be being emotionally balanced. Queen of Cups, Temperance card, Strength card. It talks about this idea of, not emotional balance, balance. And then each card has a different, more detailed version of what that exactly entails when it comes to balancing. Emotional, physically, so on and so forth. And by getting to have the deeper meaning of that individual version of that idea of balance, you can get a much deeper reading out of what you're getting into. So my spirit guide explicitly said this is about disconnecting from your intuition, or you feel disconnected is the best way to put it. And we're going to go deeper into what that means in comparison of if you could have gotten the High Priestess card. So I specifically said, what's going on here in the Eight of Wands? Now we're going to ignore the traditional meaning here, and we're explicitly talking about this visual here. So in this visual here, we have this creature forming. It's not quite fully a thing. And then this is you, and you're going to basically stand up for yourself. You're going to go into battle. You're like at odds with this thing, but it's not fully formed yet, but you're ready. But with it being in reverse, it talks about this idea of you not feeling ready. and being in a difficult position because this thing, yes, it hasn't quite fully formed, but it is forming. And it is coming into your vicinity, and you just feel ill-prepared. Why? Because of the disconnection of intuition. What does this mean? I can give actually a lot greater detail. So, again, we're going to get into subjects that are, like, I'm just talking about it. This is stuff I talk about in great depth on my Patreon. Don't worry, it's, we can change things, we can make things better. But my spirit guide basically said that something non-physical is going to be forming and affecting you in a negative way. Let me just verify with my spirit guide. My spirit guide's shaking their head yes, yeah, and they said definitely. So when this thing is forming and coming into your vicinity, most people do not have the abilities. They technically do have the abilities and they can hone them, but they haven't exercised those abilities to be able to sense it, see it, work with it. You catch my drift of what I'm saying. And because they aren't able to notice it, they're not aware of how this thing is affecting them. And my spirit guide said that this is a non-physical concept, but it will affect them physically. Again, I don't want to freak you out or anything like that. Let me just double check the seriousness of it. Okay, great. My spirit guide said not very serious, but it will bother them. But they did talk about this non-physical concept affecting you physically. And they did talk about feeling like sick, like nauseous and not feeling good, not feeling like yourself. Sometimes when things non-physically, attack or are around people and make them uncomfortable, it definitely results in people feeling disconnected. Sometimes it feels almost like you have an overwhelming additional negative thoughts, things like that, and so on and so forth. So again, always, I want to be clear, go talk to people, go work out things, always, seek professionals and stuff like that. I want to be absolutely clear about that. But going forward, this is a non-physical thing that's affecting you physically. And because you feel off and disconnected from your intuition, this is then when it's a lot harder for you to maybe initially notice it, be able to properly identify it. So this feeling of not feeling good feels very random. You're not quite sure how to identify it, what to do. So don't worry, let's get into that. So in the moon card in reverse, this traditionally, or in my tradition for me reading the cards, talks about this idea of, with the moon card, the moon itself, it's like you're looking at a mystery, a concept, but the mystery is right behind the moon. The moon is meant to act as a blockage, but not as in you can't get there, more of like a curtain. Something that is behind there, you're aware of it, you haven't quite identified it yet, you can feel it's there, you can sense it, and the moon is meant to be obvious. It's meant to say, so you see that there's something there and you can see there's something in the way or another layer you need to pull apart in order to get deeper. This is very much the feeling of when you go deeper into like meditation or consciousness and stuff like that. It's like you can sense there's something more even though you can't quite put your finger on it yet. And so when it's in reverse, we want to basically be able to look behind that moon and what's behind the moon, what's the blockage we're looking for, or not the blockage, the information, is why are you feeling disconnected from your intuition? The moon's a positive sign because compared to the high priestess where it feels just purely like you're disconnected, the moon's implying you're aware you're disconnected. You're not quite sure why yet. You can feel there's something off. You're sensing it, but you're not quite able to yet understand behind the moon why. And the great thing with the moon card is you can remove that curtain. You can look deeper into that. And that's something you're going to want to do with not only the moon card, but over here with the 8 of Wands upright. So first of all, I'm just going to put this out there. The fastest and easiest way to deal with this is if you are familiar with traveling to the spirit realm, I have all these instructions and concepts in my intuition training course. I'm just putting it out there. It's in the description below. But other than that, some of you are already enjoying the course. I'm very happy to hear that and are traveling and tell me regularly about your travels, which I love hearing about. For those individuals who are conscious spirit realm travelers, just go talk to your spirit guides. Just go talk about it with them. Go deal with this. It's not a big deal. It's great training. Just go do that. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. For other people who are like, no, I think I want to approach it in a different way, that's fine. We want to conceptually understand this idea. When we conceptually understand not only why you feel disconnected from your intuition, but also what is sort of forming and why, then in itself you are facing it and dealing with it and basically removing it or ready to have it removed. And again, you can just, after you figure this out, ask your spirit guides and stuff like that to be like, can you remove it please? And they'll just remove it. As in like, you just sort of consciously put it out there, you meditate on it, you get what I'm saying. So what I mean by this is you're going to follow a step series. It's 4 steps. You're going to identify that something is there, in this case, feeling disconnected from your intuition. And then in the separate case, you're going to say, I notice something is sort of forming. Why? Why is it forming towards me? Second thing you're going to address and connect to is you're going to be like, this is happening because it is some form of message from the universe. The universe is trying to communicate with me. I'm ready to hear the message. This is how the message is being delivered to me. I am understanding that it is that. So because I understand this is a message, I therefore can understand that it can be perceived and I can work with it. 3, you're going to figure out what that is. You can pull tarot, you can ask questions, you can do pendulum stuff, talking to your spirit guides. You want to try to think both literally, because sometimes the answer is very literal. Like, for example, sometimes you're like, man, I feel without. And the literal answer is like, you are without connection to yourself because maybe you are without love for yourself. Something very literal like that. But sometimes it's more obscure and more complex. Oh, wait, my spirit guide's interjecting. My spirit guide said it will not be complex for you for this time. That's great. Okay, so it's going to be very literal. So if you're feeling disconnected from your emotions, it would be like, or from your intuition, it would be like, okay, well, what does intuition represent for you? And what makes you feel like, what does that offer you when you feel connected? And why would you think you maybe pull away from that? Or why do you think you maybe self-sabotage? Or what do you think the specialness of being either connected or disconnected means? Do you see what I'm saying? It could mean a bunch of things. So you're going to figure out what that exactly means. And then here's the 4th most important part. You're going to then say, this is only happening. I am only receiving this situation, which is a message, and it means something, because it comes back to me. Because I create my universe. I am sending my own self messages. I could receive the message in a different way, but I'm receiving it in this way. So what state of mind am I in that created this? This could be anything from, like, for example, I find when people are much more in headspaces where they are constantly reactive or in sort of what I describe a physical mindset, they take things only as face value, they're very literal, they're very reactive, you're going to get more physical messages, which a lot of people don't love that. They usually feel frustrated by life when it happens. This is when, quote unquote, negative stuff happens and you don't love it. When things feel more behind layers, synchronicities, very obscure things like this, like if we're talking about non-physical concepts coming into fruition, this is then when you are more in that headspace of feeling more open-minded. You are definitely ready to have more complex conversations. You're definitely ready for more growth, and they're trying to give you the clues to help you basically grow and overcome things, but simultaneously you're headed in the right direction, you're doing great. But also that state of mind could be also something like, okay, do you feel like you're putting your trust in yourself and what you can perceive last? Is that the headspace you're in? Do you see what I'm saying? But having all of these things understood together for both this situation separately and this situation separately, you're going to do great. That's all you need. That's all you need. You just need to understand it's happening to tell you something. What does that mean? And what state of mind were you in order for you to basically create that into your environment? Because remember, after you've understood it, you can also, and you understand the state of mind, you can be like, oh, well, I can change my state of mind. I can change where I'm at as a person. Yeah, boop. So, like I said, kind of intense sounding. Don't worry, not a big deal. This is something that I like remove from people quite often or investigate and then, deal with and stuff like this. It's not a big deal, but it is something that's kind of, you want to be in a better position to not only be more connected to your intuition, because that feels lovely, but it makes it easier to deal with this, and potentially because you formulate those ideas and connect to it and everything we talked about before, you don't even have to deal with this at all. So it's like a win-win. Oh, wait, hold on, my spirit guide's saying something. Oh, my spirit guide said basically you can deal with, it's like 2 birds, 1 stone type of concept, where if you do the whole conceptualizing of the idea, you don't have to deal with this at all, and you'll feel more connected to your intuition. So like I said, win-win. So please let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm really excited for you. A lot of this is going deeper into understanding your full potential as an individual, benefiting from that. Some definite surprises and positive changes, and I would definitely call this leveling up. Because not only do you get to remove something that could have been uncomfortable and you wouldn't have really loved that, again, not super serious, just uncomfortable, but you also get to better understand how you interact with the universe. And I think that's a pretty spectacular thing. So anyways, again, please let me know what you think in the comments below. Please leave a like, a subscribe, hit that notification bell. It helps out like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3. Let's find out what's going to happen in March by looking at the cards. We have Ace of Cups in reverse. I'm already getting pretty interesting visuals there. The Moon card upright, the 5 of Cups upright, a really, really gorgeous Judgment card upright, the 8 of Pentacles in reverse. I love these birds. 2 of Pentacles upright, the Queen of Cups upright, and the 3 of Swords upright. Wow, this is an intense month. Give me just one moment to look at everything to get the details, as well as consult my spirit guide. So just give me one moment. Okay, let's get into this. So we're going to be going over a lot of things that are wonderfully, you're going to be really pumped to be able to know the greater details of them, because it will make it a lot easier and feel more comforting, which is why I love tarot so much. But I really love, there's a lot of kindness in this reading and a lot of understanding how things interconnect. And you know I'm all about that. So first let's start with the Moon card. Woo, the Moon! So the thing I really love about the Moon card, and this is actually something I talked in depth about when I get to communicate to the spirit of the moon. I don't know if I've ever actually talked about that. I'd love to talk about it. She's very cool, but the spirit of the moon told me about how what they're meant to represent is this idea that something is right behind them, and you're meant to be aware something's right behind them. Think of the moon as more like a curtain rather than a blockage, and you're meant to realize that something's out of reach, something seems interesting, you want to better conceptualize it or understand it. You're not quite sure how to yet, but you're aware it's there. And you're meant to see that there is something in the way, that something isn't quite understood yet, or in your path. And you're meant to then not only find out the answer, but you're meant to see the curtain or the blockage in order to know that something's there. So it's not like, oh no, there's something in my way. What do I do to remove it? That's not the focus or importance at all. It's meant to get your attention to be like, wait a minute, what's behind that? What's going on there? And the search and the understanding of what it is really the more main point of it. And that's the main thing my spirit guide said is happening in the beginning of the month. There is something you're going to want to look behind the veil of, so to speak. You're aware something is out of your reach. This is how this was expressed to me. You want it, you feel like you could have it, and you're just, you're aware, you're not quite getting something's in your path, you don't know why this annoying blockage popped up, that type of thing. What you're going to do is contemplate what that could mean. What would getting that concept mean to you? Why do you think potentially there is something in the way? Does that say something about yourself? Do you feel like you get in your own way? Do you feel like that maybe you don't think that you fully comprehend or get enough about yourself or a situation, maybe put yourself down about that, and you feel a little bit at distance from an idea, and that's why it's like that? It could be a bunch of things by both the thing behind the moon or the curtain specifically means, the separation itself, it's a bunch of things. Let me see if I can get more details. My spirit guide said, tell them to do all of it, like understand and fathom all of it. Why do you think it's separated from you? What do you think there's a deeper underlying understanding or meaning behind it? But you're going to really think about how that metaphorically translates back to you, and you're going to really contemplate it in order to, let me just see if we can get a confirmation. Yes, to remove it and remove the curtain and have the thing that feels out of reach. My spirit guide confirmed, I'm happy to say. But you're going to be learning something by interacting with that. And remember that in order to incorporate it in your understanding with interacting with your world around you going forward. But this concept is going to pop up again, you're going to notice over here. So continuing from that concept, we have the 5 of Cups upright. Now, at first I was a little concerned because I was worried that you would be experiencing, because my spirit guide said they would be experiencing like a deep level of grief. And I was like, oh no, is something going to happen that's going to cause that? And I was told, no, let me just double check. Yeah, my spirit guide's like, no. My spirit guide added in, you're hearing me correctly. The more they described it to me as something at a previous point happened to you, and you're kind of finally getting the space to have a reaction. Delayed sadness, delayed, anger, delayed emotional reaction. And you're feeling it and you're processing it by just kind of going through the motions of it. And this is something really important to understand, because while it doesn't feel initially great to go through something like this, understand what you're accomplishing is over here in the Queen of Cups. If you notice, she's got this like special ability to burn through things that are in her path. And that's what you're doing for yourself. You are creating this deep level of emotional balance by going through the motions of letting this burn through you, go through. Again, you're not getting, nothing's happening to you in the process. You're not getting hurt by this. You're sort of letting yourself without judgment. We're going to come back to that concept actually again. Just feel your feelings and process things as you do this month. And as you do, this is sort of the missing puzzle piece and factor for you feeling more like yourself. And again, back to that concept of emotional balance. So as you feel it come up, don't get mad at yourself. Don't say, what's wrong with me? Go, I finally have the time and space and feel relaxed enough to feel this. It's okay that I feel this. I'm going to just sort of not resist it so it can just go through me. And once it does, I'm going to feel a whole lot better, feel a whole lot more like myself, and realize that feeling my emotions in itself is a superpower, because it's funny and it's understandable, but a lot of us resist feeling it. Totally, again, understandable. But the thing is, if you can not resist it and just let it exist in you, it actually goes through a lot quicker, a a lot easier. You usually learn something about yourself, and usually there's some part of you that goes, I'm not going to experience this again. I won't allow myself to experience this again. I'm not going to attract this to me ever again. I'm letting it happen, and I'm ready to move on and be the best person I can be. And it's more than okay that I'm feeling these feelings. So I love that for you. The Three of Swords talks about, again, that confirmation. My spirit guide said this is the confirmation card that this thing, again, Three of Swords is pretty intense emotionally. It can talk about anything from betrayal, like when someone's like been cheated on or something like that. But it can just talk about how emotionally intense it felt for the person, like deep heartbreak. And when this happens, this is our confirmation card that it already happened. However, if you notice, our moon is popping up again, and it's interacting with this subject and emotional grief that you're processing in March. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Is that related to this? And my spirit guide goes, yes. See the interconnectedness? You're feeling and processing this, and it's being reflected and shown in your environment. And this message is giving you an opportunity to process, because sometimes when we are overcoming things that caused us these feelings, it doesn't always feel complete in our healing to just simply only feel the emotions and face it directly. Sometimes we got to look at it in a different way, and the universe is giving you an opportunity to view and talk about your situation in a different way and be able to fathom it maybe a little bit easier. You know how it's easier sometimes to be there for other people than ourselves? Think of it like that happening. And by you process and understanding this, it's easier to process and understand what you've been through, which then ends up having this beautiful, harmonious feeling towards the end. And who doesn't love that? Now, going forward, though, we have the Two of Pentacles. This talks about this idea of you having the feeling and confidence throughout the month to be able to handle kind of everything going on in your life. I asked if this was like about multitasking and stuff like that. It's more just this general, like you interacting with all the different aspects of your life, you know, from everything from your job to errands to social situations to goals, you know, the whole everything. My spirit guide said is they want to focus on, in order to be in this headspace where they feel like they can handle everything. Look at this cute little goat. See how they're jumping off a moon rock? And I love this sort of metaphor pun my spirit guide said. My spirit guide said, they are not concerned about the gravity of the situation getting to the next rock, because technically in space, you know, there's no gravity. Actually, I'm not certain about that. In space, is there no gravity, or is it just less gravity? Do you see what I'm saying? Is it just such minimal gravity, or is there absolutely no gravity? Because I didn't think about that until this moment, but just a question, just putting it out there. Anyways, going back on here. So essentially, you're going to not worry about every next step you're about to take, the next situation you're about to be in, as in every time you're moving forward in life day to day throughout March. You're just going to sort of, when you want to contemplate the gravity of the situation, you're going to just sort of throw it behind you. You're like, not my problem. You're just not going to worry about it. And by not worrying about the gravity and being aware of that and not giving that mental attention, it just makes the whole month so fluid and easy for you. It makes it really easy to be able to accomplish all your goals, feel like you're doing everything, feeling like everything's easy to handle and you're flowing and nice. But again, once you start to be like, well, stop. No gravity. You're not contemplating it. That's for someone else to worry. You're going to throw that behind you. You're going to be a beautiful, happy little goat in space. Now, this then leads to an interesting, beautiful situation going on in the Ace of Cups. And the reason why I say it's beautiful is, again, when we're overcoming some stuff from our past or feeling emotions, it can feel like a negative thing. There's like a part of our brain that says, because I don't feel happy and cheerful and wonderful, this is bad. Or what's wrong with me? That's like a common one. And I love this because it actually creates a lot of logic behind something so emotional. So in the Ace of Cups in reverse, think of this as literal, as in this individual is dumping all of the emotions outside of their cup. And my spirit guide said that's it's gonna feel like at times in March. You're gonna feel disconnected because, and this is where it gets really beautiful and better understanding, my spirit guide said, you're essentially dumping out your cup of emotions and starting again. You're refilling it with what you want to fill it with, your individual opinions and choices and feelings and reactions to things, and you're rewriting yourself in this kind of way, in a beautiful way. But when we start fresh in that kind of way, I mean, there's no emotions in your cup. You're going to be kind of disconnected a little bit. And this is to basically say, don't have any shame with that. That's okay. This is a temporary state you're in. You're going to get through it. And sometimes this is what we do in between the rebuilding, so to speak. And we're going to come back to that concept of no shame in the judgment card in 1 second, but I want to focus on how these three all interconnect when we get the Eight of Pentacles in reverse. Now, I love this card specifically for this bird here. And I cannot think of the bird's name off of the top of my head, but this bird is so cool. I'll show you it upright so it makes more sense. This bird creates these really, really cool nests that hang. And I might be confusing two different bird species, so if I am, apologies, but I think these two are related. So these little nests sort of like hang up in the tree and hang out, and it makes it harder for other beings to get, like, snakes or something like that, to get to their eggs, because they have this wonderful, unusual nesting system that isn't just directly in a tree and easy to get to. It's hanging in the air. And again, I don't remember if these are the same birds or they're different, or maybe there's another type of bird that also makes a hanging nest, but it's different, whatever. There's these other cool birds that make actually two different holes in, like, entrances into their nests. And one is a fake one. And then there's the real one that they actually sew up with their beak every time they get into the nest and out of the nest. And the fake hole, the smaller cavern, is so that something like a snake would enter into it, be confused that there's no eggs or, baby birds, and leave. And then secretly on the other side of this secret wall is this whole other, is the actual nest. And it's actually really beautiful because I'm pretty sure it's for both of these. Again, I can't remember if these are two different birds. These nests are so incredibly well done that a ton of other beings will live in it after they've left the nest. Other birds, other critters, and they will be living, like someone made a nest so good that the rest of the ecosystem benefits from their previous hard work. And that's something I want you to remember when we go into the Eight of Pentacles in reverse. My spirit guide said, you're going to let go of the details, the perfection, when it goes to anything. Creating something, interacting with anything. And what you're going to do is realize that this beautiful nest that is being built, or project, concept, idea, goals, whatever it is, maybe you just simply wanted to get a few things at the store and you're really honing in on the timing, what's the better order, whatever it is, all the little details, you're letting it go, because in the end you'll realize that the nest is going to be just as strong, just as well built. People, other creatures will love it for a lifetime. And you did not need to stress yourself out about all the little tiny things. So when you feel yourself getting in your head about that, attacking yourself about that, that's when you're going to check in with yourself and go, I don't need to worry about those details. I'm still creating and working towards things that are going to last a very long time because I'm that talented as is. I don't need to bring myself down or get in my head because of all the things I think that matter. All the little things I think are imperfections, because they don't matter. You're already creating something wonderful as a whole. And then in addition to that, this is all connected, this all same concept, headspace you're practicing while you're refilling your cup, is you're going to be very conscious of judging yourself. And this is something important to know. We judge ourselves in really, really subtle ways that we wouldn't think we do. And because we don't realize we're doing it, we then stealthily keep judging ourselves. And at the end of the day go, man, why do I not like myself? You know what I mean? Where did this come from? Unbeknownst to us, there are different ways we're putting ourselves down. So you're going to basically become very good at being able to realize, hey, is this observation I think I'm making about myself real? Is it helpful? Or is this just a subtle way I'm putting myself down? Like, let's say you're just like, yeah, well, I'm just not really sure if like I can go out for that thing and you can. It's like, okay, but why did you say that? Are you saying that for any other reason other than you're implying you're not good enough? So if you're implying you're not good enough, you're judging yourself. You're putting an expectation of you can't get what other people have. And so you're implying that through judgment, so you are judging yourself, and you're going to catch yourself and go, well, the only thing standing in my way is this perspective that I'm imposing upon myself. No one said things can't radically change and be better for you. Do you see what I'm saying here? So you're going to constantly check in with yourself and say, like, what are ways that I'm implying limitation in my life, not building myself up? And at the minimum, it's okay if you feel like you're not in the headspace to constantly send yourself love and positive things. You're just trying to be aware of, if you could comb out of your life all the ways you hold yourself back by putting yourself down in this way, and we talked about one of those ways being an act of perfection and details, and you let that go, you're just at the minimum creating a wonderful open space for better things to come in. That's it. You don't need to know how to fill it up yet with that better space, that love, that different things you can put your way. Just at the minimum, you're just creating a space that there's nothing that you don't want there. There's only things that potentially could be what you do want there, even if you don't know what they are yet. So I love this for you. It's a lot of understanding. It's a lot of kindness through processing. There's a beautiful confirmation of feeling really good, being able to handle the month no problem, learning to reevaluate ways that you can re-interact with yourself, and just honestly have a lot more patience for you getting into the person that you feel that you deserve to be and can be and are. Not implying that you're not absolutely wonderful and perfect right now, but feeling and connected to that idea. We're basically cleaning house, so to speak, so you can realize what we already know about you. So I love this for you. It gives a lot, also it makes it a lot easier when you kind of know what you're working with, as we talked about over here in the moon, and digging deeper and stuff like that, and better understanding with the Ace of Cups. So please let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know. Please leave this video a like and a subscribe and hit that notification bell. It helps out like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for our final group. Group number 4. Group number 4. Let's see what's going to happen in March by looking at the cards. We have the King of Wands in reverse. Oh, I will have to investigate this further. 6 of Swords upright, the Fool card in reverse, the 4 of Wands upright, the 9 of Swords upright, the Ace of Pentacles in reverse, 9 of Cups in reverse, and 7 of Pentacles upright. Oh. Okay, give me 1 second to look at the details of this and consult my spirit guides, and I'll be with you in 1 moment. Okay, let's just get into this right away. Okay, so I'm really pumped about a lot of these things that are popping up, because as you know, when I pull any of these card readings, I always focus on this concept of need to know, as in the subject is very broad, I'm very open to anything popping up, but it's what is most crucial for you to know. And I love all of this stuff coming in here, because not only are there some positive turnarounds to things, but it is important to better understand the details and refocusing of how you're going to go about March. March is definitely a refocusing time period. Not some great starting points and you don't feel your best, and we're talking about how to redirect that, refocus that, and I have a lot of happy endings. So first, let's start with this. This is very much a sort of thing that gets carried out throughout March as a whole. In the King of Wands in reverse, it talks about this idea of feeling a lack of energy, a lack of motivation to accomplish anything. You're just not pumped about it, but it's different than apathy. It's just, you just don't have it in you. Sometimes it can even be exhaustion, but often it's the sense of like, you just can't get excited about it. You know it needs to get done, but you just don't feel like you can accomplish that. So not a great headspace to begin the month out in. Besides the fact of just getting things done, sometimes we can get in our head about what we accomplish or don't accomplish, or start to feel that sense of over time, man, I'm not really loving that I'm not feeling like I'm doing anything day to day, and I feel kind of bummed out that I can't get into that headspace to do it. And that's when we get into that mentality of like, what's wrong with me? I'm really happy to say, don't worry, there's nothing wrong with you. We all go through our sort of ebbs and flows, but there is something really important to notice here to change that around. So initially we have the Six of Swords upright, which in a way is very positive. Talks about our first confirmation card, and I'm happy to say you have two confirmation cards talking about you coming out of this headspace and this feeling and mentality. But initially it talks about like saying like, yep, you're going to get through this, but it's going to take a little while. Why is it going to take a little while, and how can we change that? My spirit guide specifically talked about this thing holding you back. Like you could speed up the process and feel in a better headspace, feel more pumped about what you're going to do next in the day and how you're going to approach things and take care of yourself and all that jazz, if you removed this thing that's not a necessity to be there. I did double check if it's like a person, because sometimes people or peers can bring us down, and I was told like, it's a possibility, but it was more focused on a concept or idea. So let's say you're going about doing a project and you feel really daunted by the idea of doing the project because maybe a bunch of little tiny details that you think are important to make the project look more impeccable, look a little better. That's the thing on some subconscious level you're thinking, I don't want to do all those little extra things. I don't want to, and you just can't seem to then approach the project at all. This would be saying, well, those details, those little things, not really important. You're thinking they're important. They're not important. If you don't want to do them, then don't do them. And you end up then finding the enthusiasm for the initial project you worked at, like what got you excited about it in the first place, and you find yourself working on it again. You feel like you're out of that headspace. You see what I'm saying? You can speed up the process. But sometimes it's like judgment we put on ourselves. Sometimes it's an extra step not needed. It's this idea that you think you need to carry it with you and you don't. So this is a good time and space where when you're approaching anything, because when we're talking about lack of energy and motivation to doing anything, we're keeping it pretty broad as a whole. Let me just double check if it is more specific. Yeah, my spirit guide said very broad over everything. So when you're going to approach things in the beginning of the month, and you're like, yeah, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not in that headspace. What you're going to do is when you go to say, okay, simplify it. I'm doing this one thing. Okay, what's the one thing you're doing? What can you sort of remove that isn't absolutely crucial? Even if you're saying to yourself, no, I have to do this. It's just what needs to get done. It will make it better. No. Reevaluate, think about it, remove it, make it easier for yourself. You have the potential to speed up the ability to get out of that headspace. So you're going to approach each project by hand and evaluate of what is not necessary. And you're going to remove that and speed it up. In addition to that, of not prolonging the uncomfortability and all that jazz. And keep in mind, we just go through time periods where we're not as jazzed or motivated. We go through our ebbs and flows and timing and stuff. So that's completely natural. I'm happy to say it leads by the end of the month, and you can speed this up, into the Fool card in reverse, which is actually being upright. It's more in reverse because it's showing this flow of direction of like stepping out of this position. So when we have the Fool card in this placement, my spirit guide said you're going to feel like effortless. It's going to feel very free. The exciting thing I love about the Fool card is he's beginning his journey. He's new. He's the first one. So that means when he's approaching the thing, there feels like there's all these possibilities. Everything's open to him. Everything's still exciting. He's also not simultaneously worried about what could go wrong. He just feels relieved, like a weight has been taken off his shoulders. Not from where he's been, that's where he's starting, but when you get into this headspace coming from another position, that's what it feels like. So I'm happy to say these are 2 confirmation cards that everything's going to be okay, but we went a little bit into the details to speed up the process for you to not, why be in this headspace? Why, like, that's not a fun place to be. Here it is to make it a little bit better. Now, going forward, we wanted to go into the 9 of Cups in reverse. My spirit guide said you're actually pretty good at manifesting, but you're a little bit too nitpicking about the details of how exactly and what exactly it was you manifested, and you want to work on practicing throughout March, kind of letting go of that. Essentially, when we have a 9 of Cups in reverse, it's actually an extremely positive card. It talks about this idea of like, man, you got like 98% of the thing you wanted, or in some cases, when we're talking about variation, you got 80%, you got 90%. But it shows a headspace of someone being like, yeah, but I wanted the 100%. This is so frustrating, and not getting to enjoy the fact that they still got 80% of the cool thing they wanted. They still got 99% of the thing they wanted. So from what I'm picking up from my spirit guide, let me just double check something. My spirit guide says you're exactly right. Yes. Okay. I'm very excited to hear that, because sometimes we have things that happen in life in order for us to understand and learn, to help us become the people we are destined to continue to grow into and enjoy and be in our empowered state. And then after we conceptually understand an idea, the things that maybe affected us or were the case at one point in our life are not the same and of precedence another point in our life. So initially, you're just going to focus on March being like, whenever I get whatever it is I wanted, I'm going to enjoy it. And again, it's not the idea of just being like, be grateful. Yeah, totally be grateful. But it's this idea that you're not allowing yourself to realize you did successfully manifest, that you are actually getting what you want, because you're so focused on the have-nots rather than the haves. So you're going to focus on the haves. You're going to be like, I'm pretty pumped about this, and I'm excited that I did manifest it. And as you let go and more and more of what you feel you didn't get out of the exact scenario and situation, this is nice, but this also happened. You kind of let go of that. What you're ending up doing is you're opening yourself up on a subconscious level, on a deeper level when it comes to your manifesting, where you're saying to the universe, I am so excited for this thing to come my way. I'm so open to receiving it. I'm so good at manifesting it that I'm creating a bunch of different possibilities and opportunities for it to come my way. So it happens faster. I get to have more of it. And basically you're opening yourself up to this point where this is not going to be the case later on. You will get 100% of what you want. The manifestations will become more detailed, more exact, and even quicker. But you're kind of given an opportunity to practice getting out of your own way to make that actually possible. So you getting only 80% of the thing you want is practicing for you to be like, okay, well, I'll focus on that 80%. I will let myself enjoy that I did have it in order to create this opening, because when you focus on the have-nots in this type of manifesting, when we talk about this, I don't want to say you're creating more of it, you're just closing up some of the routes that could make it a little easier to get to you, or for you to have more manifestations come true and stuff like that. So constantly just focus on being like, oh, that's so cool. I wanted that. I got it. I would even recommend, one thing I always recommend when it comes to manifesting that makes it more of a precedence in your life, like happen more often, is let yourself manifest things you already know you're going to get. So let's say you're at a restaurant and you order a root beer. I'd love to know who's a root beer fan. If you had to choose Coke, Pepsi, root beer, and you order root beer, and the person says, and you're like, yeah, sure. The waitress is like, I'll go get it, and they go get it. And you know it's coming your way. You already ordered it. Some people would say, well, I'm not really manifesting it at this point. Yeah, but you actually still are. You really are. You're just a part of it a different way. If you give it that vocabulary, if you say to yourself right after you order it or right before, I manifest this. This is what I'm going to have. It creates a normalcy of that happening. And then when there are times where you're basically conjuring it out of nowhere, it becomes much more of an easier headspace for you to get in. And you're basically practicing that ability. And the more you practice that ability, when you need it at times where, again, you're bringing it out of thin air, so to speak, you've practiced, you're able to do it. So you're focusing on the haves, not the have-nots, to eventually open us to a point where we're getting 100% of what we want. So you're not being punished, it's nothing bad. It's sort of like, it's putting you in a different headspace. Then, over here, Ace of Pentacles in reverse and Nine of Swords upright. This is great because sometimes we have things happen in our life and we think, oh, this is frustrating. Why did this happen? I thought I was manifesting so great. That type of thing. This is another reason why it's so fantastic for you to be practicing this, because of what's going on here. But sometimes things happen for a reason, and it's really, cathartic to know why, so you feel a little more relieved about it. So I do see in the Ace of Pentacles in reverse, I was initially told by my spirit guide that you will be missing out on a financial opportunity. And at first I was like, oh, wow, so fun for me as a reader to share that. But it's important, obviously, because remember, we're talking about what's most important that is going to pop up in the reading. But then I was told it's actually a good thing that you missed it. Because in the Nine of Swords, we see that you would have been quite stressed out from after receiving it. It would have been one of those, I don't want to say be careful what you wish for, because that's just so limiting and implies like a fear-based mindset around manifesting. So ignore that phrase, delete it from your vocabulary forever. I more want to say like you would have, things aren't always maybe as they think they're going to seem. So at first you think, oh, I missed out on that thing. What does that mean? Am I not good at receiving this stuff? Oh, I was going to make more money. Why'd this happen? And this is letting you know, like, guess what? You missed out on it for a reason, and you're going to love that. It also helps you change the way you're viewing what you're bringing into your life over March. You're realizing that sometimes you got it, whatever you wanted to receive, in a way that might not have been your 100%, but that 80% might have been a lot better than the 100%. You might have gotten it fully, but been in a scenario you wouldn't have liked. So this is, again, same concept like this. You're learning something to have a better interaction with your universe around you, your personal world, and you're going to feel more like, it just makes you, when you're in this headspace more, this is something I talk about in great detail all in the intuition training course, and I talk about in depth a lot in Patreon. When we better understand how we're interacting with the world and why things happen, it just makes it a lot easier to like let things go. Be like, oh, okay, cool. That's why it happened. Oh, I can let that go. That's cool. And it just makes it more of a happier, wonderful environment to live in. We then get to be in a better headspace to cultivate what we actually want. It's wonderful. You catch my drift. So this then leads us to the Four of Wands. They're not connected, keep in mind. My spirit guide said that you really want to spend March cultivating a wonderful, happy home. So that means the interactions with the people you have in your space. So if you have loved ones or like a roommate or maybe whoever's coming over and hanging out, you want to do whatever you can to have like better social interactions, maybe spend some time together or do like a nice little activity for them or just talk to them so you have like a good rapport. And then you also want to maybe like decorate it, maybe get some fresh flowers every week. You want to, fun fact, I don't know if you guys do this, but you can actually put sugar in the bottom of like cut off flowers, not plant life, like cut off flowers. And they last way longer. But obviously a lot of places give you flower food to put in the water, so you can do that too. That's probably the better equivalent. Maybe you get fresh flowers. Maybe you finally do that fun interior design project you've wanted to do. Maybe you regularly are making an initiative through March to regularly clean your sheets. Maybe you go out of your way to make sure it's a little more cozier, like you make a little spot in wherever you like to hang out the most, where it's like your favorite blanket and snacks, and whether you like to play video games or have your favorite like movies or stuff or extra, whatever it is, to make that environment both socially, physically, energetically, make it the best it possibly could be. I do recommend, this is something That's why I love, that's why I made the meditation course. You can really like cultivate a lot of energy. And I actually highly recommend this to anyone. But a great way to like sort of start your day or build an environment where you can really thrive is spend like 10 minutes a day deeply contemplating where you live and thinking about it filled with just like fantastic vibes. You can think about light, you can think of it filled with flowers, you can think of it just like think of the idea of happiness, and you're just constantly thinking about it in your space. And if you're doing this regularly, over time, you're just basically pumping your little happy space with this extra level of good vibes that you just naturally pick up on. And because you feel better, it's easier to work towards things or do what you want or, have the motivation. Or just honestly, when we talk about quality of life, it's always the things we don't realize or give importance to that really make us in the long term just happier day to day. So something to contemplate when you're making that wonderful space throughout March, and that's a priority for you. And last but not least, we have the Seven of Pentacles upright. So my spirit guide specifically talked about this idea, and this is like a comforting mindset to keep on. Again, we talked about how while there is some discomfort in the beginning of the March and the ending is very happy for you, this is confirmation that you're actually doing a good job. And oftentimes when we think we're not, we are. It's so funny. Before I get into details, because there's some specific things my spirit guide talked about with this, it took me a really long time to learn this lesson, but my spirit guides used to say to me, you're doing great. And at the time, I wouldn't be doing great. I wouldn't feel confident, or I would be just not in a good headspace or something like that. And so I would be like, I hear you, but I don't feel that way. So I would interpret it as that's not the truth. But then I would be doing not so great. And I would look back at the time period they said I was doing great, and I was like, wow, I really was doing great. I might not have been able to connect to that initially, but I actually was. And I basically, through contrast, was able to, over time, understand that when my spirit guide said, you're doing fantastic, you're doing great, you really are. They wouldn't say that if that wasn't true. And I was able to understand that through experience over time. And so now when they're like, you're doing great, I'm like, I believe you. I will eventually connect to it, but I'm going to feel a lot better about myself because you wouldn't say that if it wasn't true. So in the Seven of Pentacles upright, this talks about this idea of like, so you're working towards something, right? And often you're not getting a reward at this time period when we have a Seven of Pentacles situation. So you're doing your day-to-day routine and you're like, is it adding up to anything? Am I doing the right thing to move me towards my career goals? I was asking about this in specification, and my spirit guide said specifically it was like life goals you're working towards. So this could be anything from career to maybe your general being to projects. It could be anything. It's just life goals that you have specifically set out for you. And you're in the Seven of Pentacles situation where you are successfully doing what you need to do in order to move forward, but because you haven't received rewards yet for it, you're in your head about it of like, oh, it's not happening. But that's not the main focus of the card. It's specifically this daunting image of these people sort of judging or looking over these three making their way down this path. My spirit guide said, over March, you should consider, or do, realizing that you're concerned about the expectations other people have for you. And it's sort of the thing slowing you down. But even if you are slowing down, or you're like ignoring it, whatever you're doing, you're still moving forward either way. You're still doing what you need to do day to day to move towards your goals. But the thing that's really sort of slowing you down, and I did ask if this is exactly what's going on in the Six of Swords. I was told no, so this is like something additional, they're separate. But this concept where it's like if you started to realize that other people's expectations are either full on not happening or who really cares at the end of the day, and that just comes from putting more attention towards yourself and giving your inner voice more importance instead of asking your head, well, what if this, or what about them, what would people think? And you replace all that with, will I like it? Or in time, I'll understand when I'm down with it, or I'll edit it to make it better, or I'm excited I'm working about it. And you put all your attention towards yourself, and you're replacing the potential possibility of what other people would say with what you would say. You're just going to speed up the process. It's going to be more enjoyable. The Seven of Pentacles is definitely someone where it's like your dreams and goals and everything you've ever wanted is not happening this month, but you are perfectly doing what you need to do in order to head in that, or you're like heading in that direction and moving down the path you need to in order to eventually one day harvest it, enjoy it, benefit from it type of thing. So again, I love all of this because there are some things that at the time, if you may not have known about it before, you could have been in your head about it, feeling really down, feeling overwhelmed about it, and we totally redirected it just by perspective and understanding what it's adding up to. This is the beauty of knowledge. This is the beauty of understanding. This is the beauty of going deeper into your consciousness and how you interact with the universe and your world. And I love this for you. It ends very happy in March. It ends very lighthearted. It ends with a lot of well done manifestations and enjoyment and peace, happy home, happy life, not feeling regretful. And it talks about how to make that process even easier and speed it up. And I love that. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm excited to know what you think in the comments below. I love reading all of them. Please let me know what you think. Also, please give this video a like, a subscribe, hit that notification bell. It helps out like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best. I'll see you in the next one, and goodbye.